Greetings, everyone. I'm Shanequa Thomas, your presenter for this evening. And today we're going to be talking about the necessity of community while healing. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. I will let you know ahead of time, I have a lot of personality. This is not going to be nothing that's boring or anything like that. So I just want to make this as take you on a journey, take you on a journey of what it actually looks like to go through this process of what it is to have community while healing. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into it, y'all. So for today's agenda, we will take a journey, as I stated before, take a journey of the importance of relationship building while healing from traumatic experience. So, as we go through this, it's important that we understand some foundational things along this process, as far as like exploring the power of attachment styles to caregivers, those first relationships that we had as children. With our parents. So that's something that we're going to take a look at. And then we're going to get into identification of trauma, like what trauma actually looked like. There is many facets to trauma. It can be very subjective a lot of the time. So we're just going to take a journey of what that actually looks like. And then we're also going to get into the impacts of trauma in relationships, of how actually trauma actually comes from the space of just trauma comes from being in relationship with people, because a lot of the situations that take place, it happens through the people, it happens through those relationships or those different series of events that we go through in life. And then we're going to get into healthy relationship building, the process of that and what it looks like, how to actually build from a ruptured relationship, and moving right along into the role of the community while healing from traumatic experiences. Because if anything that I have learned myself, I have understood that there is power in community while healing. Yes, we may have our moments and times where we are supposed to, go through the process, go through that processing, that pruning time alone by ourselves. But it doesn't mean that we're not supposed to have a support system while healing. So, if I had to be very transparent with you all that are tuning in and listening, this is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart because it takes give you insights even to myself of how I got through and still getting through my healing process. But I've understood that there is so much power in community that you don't have to do life alone. We are not put on this life to do it alone. We are here to be in relationship with people. We're supposed to build together. We're supposed to build the kingdom together. And if you understand kingdom, I am a disciple, I am a Christian. So you may hear me speak about my beliefs that are going to come out in this as well. But it's just a more to give more insights of how to be connected with the community is so important while healing. So yeah, so, just a little bit about me. I am a minister of the gospel, y'all. I am a minister of the gospel. I'm My ministry comes from just presenting to you all, presenting in many different spaces, and being on my podcast, which is called Spacious, where healing meets transparency and faith meets mental health. So, on our podcast, we talk about faith and mental health. That's what it's about. So that is where I do my ministry work, whether it's on my podcast or I'm facilitating at different events, things in that nature. So that's just a little bit about that. And then also, I'm a life coach as well. Before I started my journey to becoming a counselor, to becoming a therapist, I was a life coach first. But then I realized that there was so much more that needed to be done. I felt like my life coaching certification was good, but I felt like there was so much more that I needed to learn. And it wasn't until it wasn't until 2019 when I was going through a very depressive time in my life, and I just got tired of the same cycle over and over again. And I was like, hey, it got to be more to life than this. And that was a time that I didn't understand that depression was a real thing. I didn't even know the correct terminology to use. So that's when I went ahead and enrolled to Northwestern University, and that's where I received my master's in clinical mental health counseling, where I have now taken in this information and now I want to bring it back into my community. As of now, I do work for a nonprofit locally here in Jacksonville, Florida, because that is where I reside, Youth Crisis Center, where I service youth and families, but more so the youth and helping them with their mental health as far as like emotions, depression, anxiety, grief, coming from divorced families, things in that nature are what are the bulk of the cases that I work with. And then I'm also the CEO of Gracious Space. Gracious Space is a mental health and training facility that focus on youth and families. It's about not only having a safe space, a gracious space where youth and families can heal and come together and unite. It's also a training facility because if there's anything that I've learned in my journey, if I would have known what I know now, I think I would have been in a way different place. But of course, things have to happen the way they need to happen. So the training facility is to help equip parents so they can know how to take care of themselves, but also help those in their households, those the kids that they are taking care of. And then also for community, nonprofits, school systems, I want to make sure that they are equipped as well to be able to recognize the different emotional outbursts. Is little Johnny being bad because hey, is it just because I want to be bad, or is it more deep, or is it because there are things that I'm experiencing at home, but now I'm bringing it to the school and I don't know how to express it properly. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me, and of course you'll get my social media handles and all that jazz to stay connected with me at the end of the presentation. So let's keep it moving right along. So one of the things that we may all know that the pandemic exposed the brokenness and healing that was needed within our nation, within our world. It exposed a lot. So for the past couple of years, we've experienced the impacts of a pandemic that has changed the trajectory of daily living and relationships. So many people in our nation have experienced grief, loss in many facets, as far as like a job, family members. I know I have lost family members myself. And as we know, mental health for people of color has become serious, but yet it still holds a stigma that continues to linger. And we want to tear down that stigma as much as possible. That's why this Black Mental Health Summit is here today, because we want to tear down, continue to change it, and help people to understand that taking care of your mental health, that therapy, tapping into your holistic resources is so important. So as I continue, there are many who come from broken family systems. There are many who come from households that have said the famous saying, and you may know this, what happens in this house stays in this house. This has hushed the mouths of many that have experienced form of abuse from people that were considered family. In this case, many men and women and children have become detached from their emotions, or they react from the deeper depths of unhealed wounds that causes the cycle to continue, that broken record player to continue over and over again. So there are many who have been hurt by the place that is considered the hospital, known as the church. There are many within my generation, because I'm a millennial, and the generations to come, and even older generations that have strayed away from the church because they felt like they have been hurt by the church due to the duality of not feeling accepted, not feeling heard, feeling abandoned, and not having a place to actually dissect and to continue the process what needs to be healed after they leave the altar. So today we will take a journey to understand why relationships are important to heal from the deeper wounds of experiences that have left many stuck at 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, 17 years old, 25 years old, wow, in a place of raising children themselves, because many people are stuck in this mentality of being 5 years old, but yet they are struggling to raise a 5 year old themselves, or having challenges raising a 5 year old themselves because they are still stuck in that place. So it's almost like an adult being that is a child in the inside that is still trying to raise a child themselves. So today we're going to take a journey of what it looks like to be in survival mode versus living life. So one of the questions that was asked, and you can't really see it here because yeah, my slide, but however, we're gonna keep it moving. So one of the questions that I asked was that how was your relationship with your parents in your childhood years? That was one of the questions that I wanted you to just take a moment to reflect on, because this next section is going to get into the attachment styles. So if you're wondering, for those that don't know what attachment styles are, attachment is like the relationship with our parents. It talks about, it basically gives a picture how the relationship with our parents tells a lot of how we handle relationships in life. These relationships tell a story of how we journey through life experiences, how we advocate for ourselves from things we experience internally. So when it comes to attachment styles refers to ability to form emotional and empathetic, enjoyable relationships with other people or close relatives in their families. So that's what attachment is. It basically is, it's more so like a emotional bond. It's like the things that we experience in the inside. Like for some people, they are affectionate. For some people, they are not affectionate. And whenever a person is not affectionate, or they feel like I have an issue with expressing my needs and wants in a relationship, that should be a warning sign of like, well, what was my relationship like with my parents? What was my relationship like with my parents? So these insecure attachments that you see here is experienced in early life and may lead to difficult forming healthy relationships. So for those that have relationship issues, or they haven't had the best outlook on relationships, a lot of it comes from that first relationship, or that first encounter that we have with the relationships that we first know, which is with our parents or our caregiver, that person that has taken care of us. So these are the three insecure attachments right here. So we have the anxious resistant attachment style, which this person is more so hesitant. They're anxious when interacting with strangers or close relatives. So they are just like whenever somebody comes around, it's like it's more so like a lot of people like to use social anxiety, for instance, that can possibly stem from a deeper depth of how their relationship was with their parents, or someone along the line that has changed the way or the lens of how they look at themselves in relationship with other people, or how they interact with other people in relationships. And then we have the anxious avoidant attachment style. So this person, they avoid receiving affection. So they don't like receiving affection. They have a hard time of expressing needs due to the fear of rejection. So this person, it may stem from a place of like, well, when I was younger, it was something that I wanted to communicate with my mom or something like that. But the fact that she shut me down every time that I express something, then hey, I'm just not going to say anything anymore because I fear that I'm going to be rejected. That's just an example. So then we have the disorganized and the disoriented attachment style. So this stems from the intense fear. It's like from an intense fear, and this mostly is experienced by those that have experienced emotional abuse, childhood trauma, neglect, or abuse, as stated before. So moving right along. So now we're just gonna get into, now that we have explored the attachment styles, we're gonna get into what are the primary needs for children, because children do have needs. And you probably wonder why. Why are we looking at it from this standpoint? It's important that we start from a build up, because there are a lot of important things that happen in our childhood that we didn't think that was important, but they really are important because they actually play a role of how we handle ourselves as adults, how we handle ourselves as teenagers, how we handle ourselves as young adults, older adults. Those childhood years are very important. So it's important that we look at from this lens, because then we're able to see, well, where what was the start, or what was the seed that was planted for a traumatic experience. It don't necessarily have to be in your childhood, but there is a lot of commonality of just traumatic events that happen in someone's childhood, such as even like sexual abuse, or um, or emotional abuse, abandonment, rejection. A lot of it stems from the childhood. So Dr. Dan Siegel, he he put out 5 primary needs for children. So these needs help to create healthy rapport bonding between the youth and the parent, and this helps to promote healthy expression of feelings. So what are those healthy expression of feelings? We have to feel seen. Seen meaning feeling empathetic or a deep connection to a person. So if a person doesn't have a deep connection, a child doesn't have a deep connection to their parent or caregiver, then they're going to develop that avoidant attachment style, where they're just like, I know I want something. I know I need to feel love. I need to feel this affection, but I don't feel it from my parent right now. I don't feel seen right now. And a lot of times, young children, they may have a hard time with communicate that, but some of them are very vocal at a very young age. And then safe is another one as well. Safe is avoiding actions that are frightening or scary. And this if a child doesn't feel safe, this can cause that disorganized and disoriented insecure attachment style to be in place. And then soothe is helping to calm when disturbed, being calm when disturbed. So this helps if a child doesn't feel calm, or they're just always in environments where it's just like a lot of disruptions, a lot of bickering and yelling that is going on, that child is going to be anxious because they have learned, it has been programmed in their mind that, hey, I I can't feel safe around this person. I can't feel soothed in this environment because whoever I interact with, they're probably gonna yell at me. Or maybe I feel triggered in this situation. If I'm feeling triggered when somebody yell at me, well, I no longer have a secure attachment to this person. If it keeps happening repetitively. Now it's like, well, now it's just like, well, now I have developed an insecure attachment with this person. So then we have secure. Secure is helping to develop an internal sense of well being. And that's overall what we want to have in life. And our well being is to have internal good health. That's what mental health is about, to have internal good health. No matter what is going on in the outside, I know that in the inside that I have peace. I know that when I am disturbed, I know how to get my peace back. Even though when my emotions are spiraling out of control, I can get my peace back. So that's what secure is. So now we have effects of ruptured relationships. So when a person has experienced disorganized or insecure attachments, then this person, they may feel insecurities, worthlessness, shame, anger at violation, sadness at loss. They have issues of identifying and labeling, and they have trust issues. A lot of times people develop trust issues in ruptured relationships, and this causes an emotional disruption. It blocks a person of believing that they deserve happiness and can be happy. And there is a quote by Dr. Bruce Perry that states, there is a difference between thinking you deserve to be happy and knowing you are worthy of happiness. And see, a lot of times when someone is experiencing, they have experienced a traumatic event in their life through relationships, they may not no longer feel in their mind, through their lens, through that ruptured thought, those dysregulated emotions, happiness is no longer on the board. It's basically saying a lot of people, and I can say attest from experience, that a lot of times that when you have seen the same story over and over and over and over again, feeling worthy to be happy is no longer a daily living. It's more so it becomes a fairy tale versus a lifestyle. So yeah. So now let's get into trauma. So trauma What is trauma? So, trauma, according to the American Psychology Association, it states that trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event. So, typically, when a person experiences a traumatic event, the typical response to that is shock or denial. A person can automatically go into shock or denial. And the long term reactions is unpredictable emotions. They may have flashbacks. They may have strained relationships. That's a big one, which is why we're here today. And then there are physical symptoms. A lot of people, they may experience like nausea, upset stomach, just different things, or even pains in their body that reminds them of that traumatic event. So then we have ways to understand traumatic events. Now, there are different questions that you can ask because, once again, as I stated before, trauma experiences are subjective based on the person's reactions and how they experience for themselves. But these are some questions that you can ask to get more insights. It's like, okay, Is was this a traumatic event that I experienced, or even understand from the lens of the person. So these are just some questions that you can ask yourself or reflect upon, like how did I experience the event? What is going on inside of the person? Is the stress response activated in extreme or prolonged ways? So those stress responses may entail fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. So freeze is kind of cut off here, but freeze is the dissociation of stuckness. They may space out. Like when you talking to the person and they just staring in one spot, the person, their body has went into a stress response to protect themselves by freezing. They just space out. They block out things. They don't hear you. And then you have fight. Fight is basically being aggressive. They have aggressions. They're irritable all the time. When a person is angry and they automatically come at you, it comes from a deeper place. Anger is a secondary emotion. So really there is a deeper emotion that a person experiencing, but they can't really verbalize it because a lot of times people don't feel safe. They don't feel secure, or that feeling of being seen is ruptured. So now I just want to get into an example of what a stress response actually looked like. So we have our firefighter, Mr. Cobb. So Mr. Cobb, he was called out to a school because there was a fire that happened at the school. So for the firefighter, he walked right up to the flames and put them out. It's a normal work day for him. So he's used to this. So his stress response is more so moderate. The event was very predictable, it was controllable, things of that nature. There was no trauma there. Now there's a first grader. First grader Aaron, he was the one that witnessed the classroom burst into flames. Like he saw the fire happen. So right now he's experiencing intense fear, confusion. He's feeling very helpless. So his stress response is highly activated. He will develop a sensitized stress response. Now the fifth grader, he watches from afar the different buildings and everything. So he doesn't feel the threat, but he sees it from afar. Take him as like a witness to it. So for him, he has like a temporary stress response. So for him, it's like he's activated, but he knows how to balance himself out, and he's not really trauma. She's not really traumatized. Tamara. Tamara is our fifth grader. So there are three ways to define trauma. The three ways to define trauma is the event, the experience, and the effects. The event, the experience, and the effects. So why do we need to heal from these different experiences that we have took on in life? Um, so now we're going to get into the power of relationships while healing. So there's a thing called post-traumatic growth. So post-traumatic growth is positive psychology changes that experience as a result of struggle with trauma or highly challenging situations. So with positive traumatic growth, it's basically saying that you allow yourself to have positive changes in life. Like this is post-traumatic events. This is where the resilience comes in. Like you have a self-perception, you're able to develop positive self-perception, a good intrapersonal relationships, you have increased awareness, and you have self-confidence. Confidence is so important. And you have a open mind or attitude to different life experiences or different situations. You're not so in that tunnel vision space of like this person is going to hurt me. It allows a space for trust to be developed. So part of the rebuilding, the healing process is revisiting the shattered hull of the of your old worldview, your shift through the wreckage, looking for what remains, seeking your broken pieces. So part of rebuilding is looking at those places that were shattered, and a lot of those shattered places happen from that childhood area. So how do we build? We build through the forgiveness of self. We have to forgive ourselves first and show ourselves grace. So the role of the community, I know I gotta breeze through this, but the role of the community is a resource and a support system. They provide a safe space, engagement for fun, connection to influence, resilience, a soothing environment to help the person heal and grow. So is example. This past weekend, I hosted a retreat called Sisters in Christ, and this was a depiction of what it means to heal in the community of women that didn't even know each other, but they all had a common goal. They wanted relationship, but they was kind of fearful of how to go about it based off the experiences they have had in life. So we had to break the ice by allowing people to get to know each other, tell their stories without being judged. And it's all about the people that are facilitating it too, that shows the trajectory of where the the evening or how the space will go. And as a result, it was a lot of people that was able to get the healing that they was able to even build on new connections and friendships. So I say all that to say, as far as like from a spiritual aspect, from a community aspect, from a workplace aspect, from a family, from a school aspect, it's all about bringing all the resources together to build a healthy community while healing, because it's possible. So thank you so much. I would love to connect with you all and just gain more insights about what you do and how I can be a help to you and your community. Please stay connected with me. I look forward to hearing from you all, and I hope you have an amazing enjoy the rest of the summit, and thank you so much for your time.